Today, we're opening up a stack of entries spanning many different Mays. It's a fascinating collection, really. Observations, memories, reflections.
Yeah, on everything from music and tech to history, human nature, all sorts of things.
Exactly. Think of it like a personal diary, but it's interwoven with, news and cultural commentary from the specific moments.
Let's unpack it. What stands out first?
Well, what's fascinating is how it just drops you right in, that collision of events.
Personal, historical, all landing on the same calendar date, but in different years.
Yeah, right from May 1st, you've got the Beatles recording I Saw Her Standing There back in '64.
Okay.
Then jump way forward to 2023, and there's a note about a fictional character, Neone, born then, but set to become immortal, supposedly, on May 1st, 2046.
Huh. Interesting. Fictional immortality tied to a date.
And right alongside that, Osama bin Laden killed in 2011, Occupy Wall Street protests.
And even further back, Brian Eno in Bosnia during the war, that was 95. It's quite a jumble.
It really is. And there are these little details, too, like an observation that all May 7ths happen to fall on a weekend.
It's just a potent reminder, isn't it? How many different timelines are running all at once.
Yeah. Personal stuff, huge global events, cultural shifts.
Even quirky calendar facts, they're all there, layered, like geological strata or something.
And the weather even gets woven in. Sometimes it's just...
Typical nature, right?
Yeah, just typical nature. But other times it's framed as, evidence of climate change.
Though there's some skepticism noted there, right? About linking specific things like tornadoes solely to climate change.
Right, suggests other factors, like building practices in Tornado Alley might be, bigger drivers.
That personal lens on time feels key here. The past isn't just gone. It accumulates.
In layers, like old photos or different musical eras you revisit.
Exactly. And the sources talk about this layered past as an archive, something you can actually mine for content, for meaning.
Mining the layers of May. I like that.
And this idea that things gather meaning over time.
Sometimes quickly, like with news.
And sometimes over centuries. It suggests our understanding of, everything, history, culture, our own lives. It's constantly being reshaped.
There's a connection made to a poet, wasn't there, about staying at the frontier of experience?
Yes, where half of what's coming is unknown, both inside and out. And music is described as a conversation right there at that frontier.
Okay, speaking of music, these sources have some really rich stuff on creativity and technology's role in it.
Definitely. Like the idea that music engages the soul, maybe more than other arts.
Yeah, and performing being about making the inside transparent.
And that provocative thought. Music being more related to language than, say, math.
That one caught my eye, because music has math in it, obviously.
Oh, for sure, especially at simpler levels. But the argument here is there's maybe a deeper link to language. Through rhythm, maybe. How ideas spread.
They even connect song choruses to memes, right? As an idea that spreads.
Yeah, exactly. A meme.
And technology is just, it's woven through all of this, especially its impact on music.
Right, like the early iPod mentioned, how it changed the music medium itself.
And back in '99, those predictions of a new cultural zeitgeist, a renaissance.
Which the sources then reflect on later, saying, those big shifts need the right conditions, the right time, the right place, like perfect storms.
Which I guess brings us right up to AI music generation. That's a big theme.
It is. And it's described quite metaphorically, like a whispering.
Yeah, something struggling with that connection between language and music.
It barely tends to squeeze rhythms, to fit word rhythms it perceives.
Which is contrasted with, composing by hand, where you can let the rhythm flow more naturally, like writing in 68 or 128 time.
So the insight seems to be that AI, right now anyway, approaches music differently. It's more analytical, less about that intuitive flow, maybe.
Exactly. And there are concerns raised, the cost to creativity.
And the environmental cost, too, the energy needed for AI training and running it.
Yeah, that's mentioned. But it's not all negative, is it? There's a glimpse of AI being helpful.
Right. Potentially assisting, like figuring out the best tone for an instrument based on your past work.
Creating a sonic character, making you sound like you.
Yeah, more assistive, maybe, than purely generative.
Okay. And they distinguish between scoring for sound.
Where the sound is kind of detached from a specific instrument, maybe influenced by synths, sampling.
Versus traditional playing, and there's this idea of miming other instruments on your own, like playing piano parts on a bass.
Yeah. It's interesting, and that ties into the thought that maybe the post-pandemic world is pushing music more towards just sound, disconnected from the player.
That feels quite poignant, the potential loss of that deep connection, that merging with an instrument.
It does make you think. If we connect this to creativity generally, the sources get into the process itself.
Oh, yeah, the danger of working too long on one piece, turning it into, what was it?
Mushy gruel.
Yeah.
Vivid, right?
Yeah. And the advice. Keep the work in view, listen to it, or just walk away.
Let impasses resolve by just glancing at it now and then.
And that tension between needing a framework like architecture, a score,
Versus letting decoration or atmosphere take over. The idea that buildings with a strong frame stand up better.
like a score provides structure before you add the layers. There's that anecdote about Frank Gehry and fish forms, too.
Right, organic forms influencing design. It speaks to needing that solid foundation first.
And artists face specific challenges, according to these entries.
Needing affability, just being pleasant to deal with.
Being wary of new tech stealing their intentions, their authenticity.
Yeah, and being able to balk, push back against external pressures, but still experiment.
The sources also comment on how the music world itself has changed.
The focus shifting, right? From skill and infrastructure composers pre-60s, music in the home.
To image with MTV in the 80s.
Then becoming unserious after Napster in the internet era.
Which is seen as having really damaged the arts. Though music still offers that spiritual sustenance.
Okay, so moving from the creative side, these mays also sketch out the societal landscape. Information, control, again, through that personal lens.
We get observations on conflicts like the Balkans War or Iraq and the WMDs.
Yeah, questioning if America even cared if it was misled on that.
And domestic issues. School shootings are mentioned quite starkly.
Seen as a recurring paradigm shift since Columbine, almost becoming routine.
Which raises really uncomfortable questions about awareness, fear, ineffective responses.
Suggesting people just tune in for the details, then kind of move on.
And this feels connected to the critique of the information landscape.
Definitely. The internet is not what you think it is. The focus on exformation.
Which is the data we don't use, right? What
Yeah.
gets left out or curated away.
Yeah. And this feeling that original ideas now seem kind of quaint and sentimental compared to AI content.
Which people seem to want to be hands-off about.
And social media gets painted in a really harsh light.
A dead end. A validation store.
Right. People go there when their confidence is low.
Contributing to a sloppified life.
Yeah.
Living inside phones like people used to live inside TVs.
And the point that social media might be making us more stupid than AI will
How so?
by focusing on endless high ratings for everything, which means nothing when you're really honest.
Even the shutting down of one platform is called poetic. The fleeting nature of it all.
That validation store idea is powerful. What does that really suggest about us now?
Well, it seems we're outsourcing our self-worth, maybe, not just info processing.
Driven by likes, shares, external stuff?
Yeah.
Instead of internal validation or, real engagement.
The info flow is just this constant, often shallow feedback loop we get hooked on.
And this connects to the idea of mind viruses or memes.
Spreading through the psychosphere, the collective mental space.
Yeah, brought up specifically with things like school shootings, infecting troubled adolescents.
Like patterns of thought spreading like a contagion.
Which then leads into this whole philosophical bit about owners of knowledge.
The idea that knowledge should be free. That ideas just float around like spores.
Right. And attributing them solely to one person is framed as potentially a form of fascism.
Wow, strong word.
Yeah, the idea being that pinning down fluid ideas, setting them in stone under one name, erases that collective, anonymous way memes and ideas actually spread.
So the takeaway seems to be our modern info environment, especially social media. It fundamentally changes how we consume things, seek validation, even how we think about where ideas come from.
Exactly. And woven through all this is anxiety as this pervasive modern thing.
Leading to paralysis. Can't make simple decisions like buying an instrument online, the example given.
And it's linked to fear in a specific brain region. Nutrition and sleep help, apparently.
But also this big investment in researching psychotropic nootropic drugs, MDMA, psilocybin, LSD.
With decriminalization happening places. It's noted as weird that different political sides are interested.
The hope being psychedelics might help people calm down, think broader.
Yeah, but the current information overload, the noise, might make that hard to achieve.
Okay, so moving from societal anxieties,
And
the entries also dig into identity, authenticity, adaptation. Who are we in all this?
yeah, identity explored through archetypes. The Texas Red State cowboy, the jazz guitarist turned lawyer.
And neo-Jungianism, contemporary Jungian ideas.
Seen as being distorted by celebrity culture, especially online.
And authenticity comes up, particularly in workplaces like law firms, where structure clashes with being yourself.
And that powerful idea that forced inauthenticity, learned inauthenticity, might even lead to chronic illness.
Wow. Military archetypes are even suggested as needed in some rigid places just to maintain structure.
Then there's connecting to family history, the weird concept.
Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic people.
Right. Introduced as a way to maybe understand your natural talents, your leanings.
The perspective is kind of provocative, isn't it? That many of us might be doing the wrong thing compared to our ancestors.
Yeah, the suggestion is look back at family history. Find modern ways to use those ingrained talents.
Like an ironworker father leading to arts and crafts interest, or Italian heritage connecting to the Renaissance.
Exactly. Research on family constellations, how intentions or trauma pass down generations. That's mentioned as relevant too.
That's a really interesting insight, looking back to find your path forward, especially for that weird group.
It is. And adaptation is just. It's highlighted throughout as a human universal. We have to adapt.
To tech changes, like AI called an inflection point, or even huge environmental shifts, like a slowly dimming sun over vast time. Adaptation is constant.
But humans also show rigidity. We get into ruts.
Sometimes driven by that to the grave thinking, I've decided this is what I do, period.
And tying back to music and tech, there's that poignant thought again.
The potential loss of merging with instruments.
Which is another form of adaptation, perhaps. Or losing a specific relationship as music becomes more about disembodied sound.
It definitely gives you pause.
So, okay, yeah, looking across all these different mays, what's the thread? The core insight, pulling it together.
It feels like it's about the constant interplay, doesn't it, between the micro and the macro?
Yeah, our personal rhythms bumping up against history's unpredictable flow.
All shaped by this relentless change in technology and culture.
It's about how we try to find meaning, how we express ourselves, just how we navigate it all.
Amidst the information overload, the anxiety, these shifting ideas about ownership, authenticity, in a world that feels both super personal and totally overwhelming.
It really does make you reflect on how you engage with it all.
Whether you're grappling with AI's impact on creativity or trying to figure out your place in these huge complex forces.
Or just deciding how to deal with the daily flood of life and media. These entries, yeah, they give you a lot to think about.
Which raises a final question, maybe. Consider this. In a world where validation is sought in a store, where ideas are said to just float around like spores, and where tech keeps changing our relationship with creativity, with ourselves, how do you actually find and protect what is authentic to you?
That's definitely something worth mulling over, long after May is gone.